Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to Osami's 7 Key World Cup 2023, and we're back with one final match of round of 16, and it's going to be probably one of the most potential tiebreaker matches of all, probably on this round of 16, which is Spain versus Thailand. I'm your commentator Mifa, and I'll be joining with Sparky. How are you doing?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. Excited to get this final match of the round of 16 underway. This is, as you said, one of probably the most potential for tiebreaker to occur. These two teams on paper very evenly matched despite whatever the seeding discrepancy might be. As you were saying, we got Spain on Team Red, we got Itor98, Moxie, Crew K Fanboy, and Not PX going up against Thailand, captained by Lost Cool, and then followed up by Ken's Natsurio and Sutina. Sorry, managed to make my way through it. Very excited to get this one underway.
Yeah, we should also mention that Spain is on seed 6, on seed 11, which not might be the biggest seed difference like in an evenly matchup, but I feel like even in qualifier situation, it's probably not gonna say much given these teams have such a high caliber to play out for, I guess, for the rest of the match, really. Given that this pool has a slightly even more difficulty, I guess, in round of 16. Unlike the qualifiers, to say the least.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely bringing it back down just a tiny bit compared to the qualifiers. Hopefully we have some very intense back and forths. I know we were having a conversation about what the potential bans and picks could be for these teams. It feels like there could be quite a bit of overlap, maybe some randomness to some of the picks. Historically, some of these teams maybe just showing up, playing what they like, as opposed to what they might be stronger in. And we can already see LN1 being removed from the pool, so that LN coordination not going to be an issue for either of these two teams to deal with.
Yeah, low star Londo like this, you know, it's been historically like has the highest ban rate in, I guess, mostly in like last years as well. You don't see very much of the mostly longer these head sometimes. I guess this is no exception, except for the fact that Thailand's banning this, which I'm kind of surprised as well. But I also understand why they would not try to touch that in the slightest.
Yeah, for sure. It's a very risky pick overall, and the few times we have seen it get played, glider breaks or misses are very detrimental overall to the team score, just due to the fact that there isn't a lot of note density behind it. So getting back up over that 400 combo cap, especially like halfway through the run, is going to cost you thousands, if not tens of thousands of points, and you definitely need to trade back to try and recover from it. And it looks like the answer back is going to be Hybrid One being removed from the pool by Spain here.
They're removing Shinkai out of the equation, which I guess you don't want to play most of the longer picks. I guess Shinkai has the longest length of the, I guess, the non-tiebreaker pick.
Yeah, so complete opposite there. Maybe just not wanting to keep up the consistency for too long. And going into something a little less surprising, it's going to be Primitrix to start this match off. You imagine on the top half of the screen we have Itor98 going against Lost Coal, probably the two anchors for their respective countries, being backed up by the rest of their teammates as this match gets going.
Yeah, we're seeing Spain already being, I guess, the usual two players that usually plays for basically every pick. So Itor98 and also KK Fanboy. I guess in the nickname was Summit, I believe. But, or also a really strong player by themselves as well. Even they played in like a finals pool like the last year, so no surprising to see the leaks.
Yeah, for sure, a dynamic duo in and of themselves. It'll be interesting to see who Thailand brings up to the plate to back up Lost Cool on this pick. You'd imagine that this is going to be very contentious, probably going to come down to singular misses, or at best, maybe just ratio alone.
Yes, and we're waiting for a second player. I think we will probably be inviting Natsurio to the lobby, which Natsuya mainly regarded of the most physical rice for Thailand. Outside of like Kenzie being the most, I guess the OG player you would see. I guess the fan favorite for Thailand at least. And there we go. We have Natsuya in the lobby.
Yeah, so it looks like everything is squared away here. All 4 players in the lobby now. Just waiting for them to ready up so we can get into this first map of this best of 9. Of course, winner will be moving on to the quarterfinals in the winner's bracket. No real harm done to the loser, just going to drop down into that lower bracket and round out the rest of this quarterfinals bracket. Last match, all of the other matches have been decided outside of 2. And we'll get underway here.
Yeah, here we go. We'll see. I guess if you want to like comparing the difference between the two teams, Natsuri also played with like the Rice pick. Very naturally, very good at core streams, but in such a like the lower VPN core stream, which is like a 150 at most. So it's kind of surprising to see that Natsuri is going to be playing in this, although it has a bit of a shaky start at the beginning, but nothing too crazy.
Yeah, I picked up a couple 200s on that opening burst, recovering very nicely, but lagging a little bit behind out of this introduction as things start to settle down. Everybody's starting to settle into this chord string pick. We have Aitor and Kruke Fanboy up in that 99.8 range. Lost Clone Natsuro not too far behind, about 2/10 behind them for now. All 4 players holding on to their full combos, but Spain ahead based on accuracy alone at the moment.
Yeah, about a 60% difference, I guess, if you want to call it, on the total alone, which, given the difference between the 2 players, are at least about like below 0.2%. And Nasir continuing to have some bit of an issue with 200 here and there, but no combo breaks just yet, but it soon will be starting to get apparent until you get to the endings.
Yeah, for sure, things start to calm down, just a little bit of chance for the players to take stock of the situation real quick. Back half of the map still to come, still plenty of opportunity for Thailand to make a comeback in this chart. But Spain is not making it easy, climbing in terms of accuracy. Kruke Fanboy about to climb back up into that 99.9 range, putting up an excellent performance so far, backed up by Aitor at the moment.
Yeah, Kruke Fanboy is doing pretty much shot shooting the entire chord. Every chord stream has been kind of perfected at least. Trying to hang on. Lost Cool is trying their best to keep up with the 99.7. He's increasing his accuracy, but not too much in the way that Spain is going to give that lead back up. In fact, the lead is actually kind of increasing.
Yeah, for sure. And there are a couple of 200s coming out from Natsurio. No major mistakes to speak of, but it is those tiny little drops that really start to add up at the end of the day. And by the looks of it here, Spain going to take this first point and make it 1-0 now.
10,000 points away from being 2 million, and Cricket Fanboy takes that up with a V1 double S. Aitor with the black flag too, with like basically similar ratio to Cricket Fanboy, although not to discredit. 6 200s and 14 200s are solid, but it's Spain's pick, so it's not really much to have a loss to it, and Tyler will have some time to pick.
Yeah, for sure. Can't get too down about that. An incredible performance from Lost Coal and Natsurio. Holding on to the double FCs, very hard to do on charts like that sometimes. And the fact that it is your opponent's pick, definitely can't get too down about that. As you were saying, an opportunity for them to set their own pace, see what they want to go for here in response.
I feel like given the picks from Thailand, they're banning Hana, which to me it just implies that Wake Me Up doesn't look like a good pick. Wake Me Up is very much into like one-headed bias element coordination, and this has something that Hana does. What for Angel's Ladder? We're going to Rice pick territory.
Yeah, no need for those LNs to make their appearance just yet. I think both these countries very, very comfortable, very adept at these rice charts. Maybe want to try and run it back a little bit on something a little bit stylistically different.
At think this is the only match that they have a actually pretty similar differences in terms of picks. Usually you see Rise and LS back and forth between opponents, but this is just you just run into that line flare basically.
Yeah, for sure. It's mono-stylistic. We will duke it out here and challenge you to outratio us on things that we feel comfortable on as you are. And once those are exhausted, we'll settle it between what's left. Always love to see that.
Yeah, especially that there's like 5 ice picks, and I think inevitably they're going to be running out as soon as the match finishes. They have to start picking high-res or LNs.
Yeah, unless there is a sweep. We'll definitely need to see either an LN or a hybrid chart come out here sometime soon. Aitor pulling out the mirror here for this Angel's Ladders pick, Thailand's first pick. Let's see how they do.
Yeah, starting with 100. Oh, yeah, well, I mean, the very first 50 notes with 100, but basically trying to flex that. Not the most exciting thing to see about the intro, although I feel like it's not too much of a difference just yet.
Yeah, if anything, this is probably a much more level introduction between these two countries compared to Rice 2 from earlier. Aitor and Crew Cave building up their accuracy up to that 99.7 range and beyond. But Thailand's in there with a shout right now going into the second third of the map. 99.5s for them on average. But Natsurio finding the break on the transition into the back half of the map, and that's going to help extend this lead for Spain now.
Yeah, that's a unfortunate drop it right just before we get to the, I guess, the pseudo screen section and break there. But I mean, the accuracy difference is actually pretty wildly variant. Like 99.8 average of Spain, still up until the last third.
Yeah, we were speaking before this match started about how close this could potentially be, but for right now, it seems like Spain is really exceeding all expectations that we had and really pulling away now. Very comfortable on these Rice charts so far and climbing in terms of accuracy. Sure, a couple of 200s coming out from Crew K Fanboy on that last burst, going to drop them down to that 99.6 range, but still ahead of either of these Thai players for now.
That is to get intensified at the ending too. I don't feel like Spain is going to drop at any point, which it just does seem to me this is a very clear breakpoint too for Spain.
Yeah, one final drop from Natsurio going to seal the deal there, and Spain going to move up 2-0, taking the first breakpoint in this match.
These are Arsenal scores are actually insane. 3 200s, 6 200s, 11 200s. Natsurio actually getting basically less 200s than Crooked Fanboy, but unfortunately picking up 2 misses, which it actually just makes it even bigger of a difference.
Yeah, for sure, but still a very good score overall. Very hard to maintain combo and stuff like that. But with that being said, Spain, an opportunity to capitalize on that breakpoint. You'd imagine don't really need to change course here. You can probably still stick with the Rice pool.
Yeah, busy come, busy go would be their next pick. It's the same thing as like Angel's Ladder, except it's just, yeah, there you go. Busy come, busy go is the next pick.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Everything going according to plan for Spain. Don't need to change things up just yet. And now you basically have pick of the litter. I think the only pick that might be contentious out of the Rice pool might be that Korjak pick in Rain, but I mean, just based on the ratio difference between these two teams, you'd imagine Spain has the advantage there unless they find like a number of 200s by mistake here. So busy come, busy go, going to be the pick here.
Well, I think in this case, Rain would be probably. It's like I said when we discussed this before the game starts. It's just you just run into the chicken game situation, whether if you want to risk to play out ag, but then at the same time you just don't want to know your Korjak accuracy at the same time as Moscow Natsurio is definitely really comfortable with it too.
Yeah, I think that might be like the last option for either of these two countries. You'd imagine with the way things have been going so far, and depending on how this one goes, Thailand might actually want to opt for that one if they really just do not want to play those LN hybrid charts. Because so far Spain has had their number through these first two maps.
Yeah, well, I mean, it should be, given that I guess their session has been doing really good so far. With Pyramid Tricks and Angel's Ladder coming out on top with superior accuracies overall. I think it beats out even the two Thailand players. Still with the mirror from iTour too, but at the probably don't want to waste the mind blocks on it too, even with practice sessions.
Yeah, and as we get this map underway, bit of a shaky start from Natsurio, down into that low 99% range, but still plenty of time for them to recover. Not a long chart by any stretch of the imagination, but if you want to find those accuracy drops, best get them out of the way early so that you can get on that road to recovery very quickly. And it's, stop me if you've heard this one before, Spain ahead on just pure accuracy alone, but Lost Cool actually being up there to contest might be able to keep this lead in check now.
Yeah, the swing patterns might actually would be the open gate here for Thailand, but at the same time, Spain is also increasing his accuracy. They're actually pretty rapidly, although they picked up a couple of 200s for both of these players. Natsurio pick up a lot more 200s, so it would be evened out.
Yeah, timing some of these swing rhythms can be pretty contentious. You see Natsurio hitting pretty early, trying to make sure that they stay ahead of the beat at the cost of their accuracy and at the cost of this lead for Spain that has been growing so far. Going to the back half of the chart now, both players averaging in at 99.7 range. Lost Cool now up to compete, and Kruke Fanboy actually finding first break.
Yeah, that would be the first miss that Spain has got for these two maps, but Natsurio trading that out, basically actually extending that lead to Spain given the accuracy is actually quite low. Another 1-2.
Yeah, so no harm, no foul at the end of the day for Spain here. Getting that trade and an extra one in return, gonna help cushion the lead just a little bit more. Another drop from Natsurio. Really hasn't had the best of time on this chart. To be expected, this is a very awkward chart, and as it comes to an end, it is going to be Spain capitalizing on that break point and making it 3-0 now.
Yeah, with clearly the difference between this Stewie making 3 misses as 2 with Cricket Fanboy had a little bit of slip up, but regardless, I mean the ending of this chart is, I guess, pretty nasty to say the least, and having a break on that is pretty much the death sentence.
Yeah, for sure, but I mean they kept it pretty close for a decent amount of time going into that back half. It was just that transition that really started the domino effect for Thailand there, and basically almost guaranteed the point for Spain at the end of the day. But it is going to be their next pick, an opportunity to try and right the ship here. You wonder if they're going to change course, maybe dive into the LN hybrid pool, or if they're going to stick to their guns. And it's going to be Rain.
Oh boy, you're still sticking with the Rise picks here. So Spain has to pick Anemone just to complete the category.
Yeah, you imagine that's probably going to be the next pick, regardless of what happens here. But I was saying this before the last map started, that this might actually be one of the closer ones. This Korjak style pick really is just a bit of a consistency test at the end of the day. I think you referred to it nicely as a bit of a chicken game, a bit of game of cat and mouse. Who blinks first? Who drops that first 200? Or who finds that rush of 300s to really swing the tide of this map?
It's just, well, chords, really. I mean, in the truest sense of the word, I guess the BPM is slow enough to make, at the very least, not to rush 300 here every now and then. But again, it's a chord. It's just chord back. It's just how it is.
Yeah, very same could be said for like the 4-key variant of Korjak. It's either you can play it or you can't. Very black and white skill set, and it looks like we're still not gonna have any substitutions. So 4 anchors on screen here. iTour and Kruke going against Lost Cool and Natsurio against all 4 of these Rise charts so far.
The the thing is, can they actually outact themselves? Just to make sure that you have a slight relief if you actually if Thailand can win this.
Yeah, you'd imagine we're gonna see a lot of 99.9s for a majority of this chart. Players of this caliber very comfortable on rice style like this.
Aitor might have hitting it slightly early, so the 300s caught that out, but Nasuria's trying to pick up Aitor's accuracy, but there's a 200 over there.
Yeah, now we're gonna have a bit of a cross-map battle developing. Second quarter of the map, upcoming Crew K Fanboy up against Lost Cool right now, trying to keep each other in check. And right now it's the difference between Aitor and Natsurio for the moment. About a 10th behind on the side of Thailand. This is the most slender lead that Spain has had so far this match. See if they can hold on to it here.
Yeah, Aitor needs to figure it out because Aitor seems to be hitting ever so slightly early, so that would just cost them that lead. Even though Cricket Fanboy and Lost Cool is trying to have as much as possible, 99.95 plus, and Natsurio is trying to pick that back up.
Yeah, for sure. I think Crew K Fanboy and Lost Cool cannot afford to drop any bit of accuracy here because they're the two holding it up for their respective countries at the moment as Aitor and Natsurio battle it out on opposite sides of the screen here. Last quarter of the map still to come. It is still Aitor ahead of Natsurio by about 600% right now. Anything can change. Any singular 200 could impact this greatly here.
Still bits of flicker, but even though with this bits of flicker, he needs to have an absolute massive tank, and Aitor seems to have figured it out, but not to hit too early, and he's trying to stabilize the accuracy, but Natsurio also stabilized accuracy, but not too much. Moscow and Cricket Bang will stay unchanged for the rest of the map.
Yeah, coming down to the wire here, anything can still change, but it is not going to be. And Spain pick up a match point situation on the cusp of a 5-0 sweep here. Oh my goodness, these scores are ridiculous.
51 and 63, just 300 difference. Aitor, not too bad of a score, but it might have the early hits might have get it to it, so the score might be not as high as you would expect it to be. Natsurio picking 200s might have been at the beginning of I guess the early of the combo, but regardless, that would not mattered too much because the ratio is slightly different for Natsurio as well.
Yeah, for sure, and I mean you can see the results of that chart. When you know that everybody in the lobby can play it, you start to hyper focus on the accuracy. Crew K Fanboy saying that they're shaking. That was a massive personal best for them. You love to see it happen in match.
Yeah. I mean, at some point, one of them always happened, and it was a massive personal best.
Yeah, for sure. You definitely don't want to be the one to find either a singular miss or that rush of 200s that could cost a point. And with how close that one was, definitely came to fruition there. Now Spain, opportunity to close things out, and unsurprisingly, we are not playing LN, we are not playing hybrid by our own volition. It is going to be Anemone coming out here, rounding out the rice pool.
At this point, we're just not to guess, because that would be like the last rice thing that Spain curves no hesitancy.
Yeah, so it's up to Thailand here to take this breakpoint. Gonna need to force a tiebreaker here, try and reverse sweep their way through to make it into the winners quarterfinals.
Yeah, but this is a bit of a difference. It's a speed, which he would be absolutely sure that you're gonna slip up at one point, even though the spins are comfortable by itself. But it just depends on who is slip up first, and this would be a kind of a volatile pick at the very least. And Spain, even though they're pretty comfortable with it, you're just running into that risk of missing.
Yeah, for sure. I think confidence should not turn into overconfidence when it comes to styles that you are used to. There's still very much a possibility of finding a break where you least expect it, especially coming off of a pick like Rain, where you were hyper focusing on trying to keep the ratio in check. Sometimes when you start to push a little too hard is when you start to overthink things, and then the mistakes start to come out. So see if Thailand can capitalize on any of that happening on the side of Spain, or if Spain can keep their cool and try and close this out as soon as humanly possible.
Closing this out is the only Rice picks of the entire round of 16, and this would be the only match that do so. But if Thailand breaks this one, that would be interesting because you don't have any Rice picks left.
Yeah, venturing into uncharted territory if Thailand does manage to pull it out here. And this is pretty, I was about to say, a pretty hot start for all four players. Natsurio dropping on those staircase rolls, transitioning into the second half of this first quarter. And that's going to hand Spain a pretty decent cushion to work with right out of the gate here.
Just the slip up at I guess, before the 400, so it's not as severe you would expect it to be. So there's still some time to recover, so it's not the end of the world just yet.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely still room to recover, and Spain not really pulling away as hard as they have in other maps. And Kruger Fanboy gonna find the drop on the transition into the speed roll traded by Natsurio, and Lost Goal finding the drop as well. A full team reset on the side of Thailand as we make our way into the back half of the map. Natsurio missing once again, and this lead is quickly spiraling out of control for Spain going into the last third here. So now it is Aitor, the sole FC left in the lobby, pulling it through right now for Spain, keeping this lead out of reach for Thailand as it stands. Last quarter of the map still to go. Thailand definitely not out of the woods yet, but gonna need some help from the side of Spain to try and hand this point back. Oh, and Aitor finds a drop. Last eighth of the map left to go, but Natsurio trades it back. It has been these trades that have been costing Thailand these points at these pivotal situations, not able to capitalize when given an opportunity, and it is going to be Spain closing it out, making it 5-0. A full Rice sweep here.
Spain here for having the upper edge of this match too, with the Rice only picks in this match.
Yeah, unprecedented here. Usually you see somebody dive into that lower half of the map pool or vice versa, but not to be here. Spain pulling it out. 5 Rice picks up, 5 Rice picks down, and pulling out the victory. And with that, that will conclude the round of 16 weekend. We are officially done. All 8 matches have been played. Your winners bracket's decided, and your losers bracket is set up and ready to go.
Absolutely. So we do see that I guess in the round of 16 where we have a total of, I guess, 6 clean sweeps as well, and the only 2 matches are not a sweep, and one of them even go to a tiebreaker, which is very impressive.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of people on paper were probably seeing, oh, okay, the top seeds are probably just gonna roll their way through. Not to be. We did have a singular upset, Japan taking down Indonesia in tiebreaker, and Canada giving Brazil a bit of a run for their money. But with that being said, all that's left to do this weekend is give you guys that quarterfinal showcase. I believe that will be taking place at the top of the hour, so definitely don't want to miss that.
Yeah, absolutely. Even quarterfinal map showcase is gonna be a tough one, I guess, for, I guess you would say, the losers bracket, having the hard time to set up in the quarterfinals map practice. Although it would be the same case as I guess the winners bracket. We have South Korea versus Brazil, which could be an interesting one, and China versus the United States as well. It would be a very interesting, just a Rise and Ellen only picks, I believe.
Yeah, for sure. So with that being said, some exciting matchups to look forward to next weekend. think we're gonna take some time to prepare for the showcase coming up. But one last order of business. If you like what you have been seeing so far during this World Cup and you feel a little bit generous, we do have the Open Collective, an initiative that we started last year to help expand the prize pool for the players. Definitely enjoy donating to ensure that we can deliver some of the highest quality action for the World Cups as possible. And soon, gonna give a little bit of a preview, got banners coming up, so definitely look forward to hearing us talk about those banners. Support your countries. I believe starting next week we'll have those available in the store. And Mifa, do you have anything else left to say before we close things out here?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the teams are still not eliminated for, round of 16. They still have a losers bracket to play for, and I guess we just don't go anywhere just yet, because the quarterfinals after the showcase will be, I guess, starting a bit after we have a switch up in before we prepare for the showcase itself. And I guess there's nothing much else left to say.
Yep, so we'll catch you guys in just a little bit.
Yeah, see you, and we're signing off.
more. But if you'd held on a little longer, you'd have had more reasons to be proud. So many questions, but I'm talking to myself. I know that you can't hear me anymore, not anymore. So much to tell you, and most of all goodbye, but I know that you can't hear me anymore. It's so loud inside my head, with words that I should have said as I drown in my regrets. I can't take back the words no longer I stand here, the louder the silence. I know that you're gone, but sometimes I swear that I hear your voice while the wind blows. So I talk to the shadows, hoping you might be listening, 'cause I want you to know it's so loud inside my head, with words that I should have said as I drown in my regrets. I can't take back the words I never said. I can't take back the words I never said. Never said. I can't take back the words I never Put it on the right track, put it on the right track. Message from my heart, message from my heart. Put it on the right track, put it on the right track. Message from my heart, message from my heart. Put it on the right track, put it on the right track. Message from my heart, message from my heart. Put it on the right track, put it on the right track. Message from my heart, message from my heart. Message from my heart.
All right, everybody. Hello and welcome back. Thank you for sticking here with us. We have one more thing left to do for this weekend, and that is going to be our quarterfinals map pool showcase for the Osimania 7 Cube World Cup 2023. I will be one of your commentators for this Toke Daddy, and I am joined by Surf Chew. How's it going?
Hello, good evening from the Philippines. It's almost midnight, but the night is still starting.
You can't miss the map pool showcase. Absolutely not. Doesn't matter what time it is.
Definitely.
But there's not really a whole lot to say about this. I'm really excited to see how the players react to this. Obviously, with a move on from round of 16 to the quarterfinals, the map pool is going to get just a little bit tougher. And I put a big quotation mark around a little bit because, I mean, the difficulty, definitely you're going to notice some differences. And but despite that, all 16 teams that were in the round of 16 are going to be playing on this quarterfinals pool. So everyone will get an opportunity to suffer, so to speak.
Well, there are definitely going to be keyboards that will be getting abused the coming weekend. And it's going to be interesting to see, especially with some teams that drop down to the lower bracket. And they're going to play harder pools. They're going to try to survive whatever's going to happen to them.
Absolutely. But without further ado, I think we can start moving into our first pick in this pool. And we're going to be starting with some Rice in the quarterfinals pool. Specifically, our Rice 1, our speed pick, Gypsophilia by Evening, 151 BPM, OD8, 2 minutes and 42 seconds. And I don't really know what to say specifically about this other than it's kind of what you expect out of a speed map. It has some comfortable patterns. They're kind of like delay-ish. And that delay kind of notability will be especially obvious once we get to the second half where it transitions between some chord stream patterns and then delaying them. So I think this is going to be pretty comfortable for a lot of people, but accuracy I think is going to be the biggest thing to focus on because combo is not as huge of a deal on a map like this versus making sure that you're straight on the accuracy.
Well, something I noticed coming off test playing this is the structure of how the speedy patterns on this chart is way different over Anemone. Anemone is kind of more of a faster, more comfy chord streams here. The delay sections that were introduced in this chart is something super kind of abrasive if you're not really prepared. Super easy to rush.
Yeah, absolutely. And even in this early section, we saw a little bit, like right at the start of it, that there were some like 2-note mini anchors almost in these streams. And we're seeing that quite a bit throughout some of these patterns, like right there as well. And those can be pretty difficult to hold on to properly, even though the density of those streams does go down just a little bit once those patterns start showing up.
Yeah, you just don't want to let up really. You kind of want to just maintain that speed really. Plus another thing that you might want to consider as well is your stamina, because charts like these really like to drain you a lot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And even like there we did have that break section right there, but this is the entire second half of the map is that we have these delay patterns right here, which as I said will transition in and out of like some regular chord streaming as well, but you don't really stop at all once these patterns start up again. And that's where like making sure that you hold on to your stamina until the second half is going to be really important for a lot of these players.
A short chord stream section right there, but it immediately transitions back to those speedy patterns. And here are some streams that are pretty tricky to hit. From what I've calculated, we're seeing like around 300 BPM to 450 BPM streams here, which is big numbers.
Big numbers indeed. And we're even seeing some pretty complex patterning in this ending with some mini jacks as well to kind of throw off the momentum that you were seeing in the rest of the chart. So definitely not something you're going to want to like fall asleep to. And it's definitely like you can't like autopilot it at all.
All right. So our next pick is a hybrid pick, which is Silent Room's Shuno Hazama, a chart by Paradoxes, and this is an edit chart, a specially edited difficulty for this Mania World Cup. And also, something to note, this is the longest non-tiebreaker pick in the entire quarterfinals pool.
Yeah, for people who don't know, Shuno Hazama, better known as Rain Shower for a lot of people, Silent Room's sequel to Nelv. But what I kind of noticed when I was looking through this chart is that it's not really particularly like tricky in any situations. There's a lot of like straightforward streaming and chord streaming that just is surrounded by long notes. Like even this intro, you start at the intro and like the long notes are not like abrasive at all. It starts getting some longer long notes towards the end of this beginning section, but even then, as long as you're capable of like reading through this, I don't think most of the players are going to have that big of an issue with it. The real difficulty of this, I think, is going to come with the chorus, where the Ellens become a little bit more abrasive, and especially as you transition out, those Ellens get really, really difficult.
If there's anything I could compare this from the round of 16 pool, I would actually say this plays something like Prematrix, Rise 2 from the round of 16 pool, especially with how the chords in practically the hybrid chord stream is structured in this chart. So those who favor those kinds of patterns might want to take note of this.
Yeah, I would also maybe liken it to a bit of something similar to Hybrid 1 from the previous pool, where it was mostly a consistency test with not too abrasive long notes, and really straightforward rice patterns as well, just kind of keeping you on your toes, make sure that you have the consistency to hold onto the combo for the entire 3.5-minute runtime of this chart. But as I said, we're getting into that chorus, and those long notes get just a little bit more abrasive here, and the rice patterns also introduce some bursts, which are not as consistent with the chord stream around it as we saw in the first half.
Well, you see some reverse shield usage here. Quite fun to play as is, but getting the act out of those might be something that everybody has to be super careful of, especially as you mentioned with the bursts within the streams, something that you do not really want to turn off your minds, and just try to hit them as much as you could, and also that left hand reverse shield right there. Ooh.
It gets real dense right at the outro. Got to make sure you're good enough at those long notes to handle that transition out. But we still do have about a quarter left of this map. But I think that chorus is going to be the highest point of difficulty. It kind of just slows down a little bit, goes back into the more consistent, straightforward stuff for this last quarter.
And here's a repeat of the intro section.
Indeed, just get your bearings back down before the ending section hits you. Some more broken-ish chord stream with those short, long notes. And like I said, comes to the ending and it just kind of repeats that structure that we had before where, we just have the long notes and regular chord stream. So just a big consistency test once you get out outside of the chorus.
Also, just a note, those trilly patterns as well, they're actually super tricky to hit. Once you notice that those are actually trills, it's kind of hard to miss them.
Yeah, for sure. And especially at a slow BPM, those are 87 BPM trills. So making sure that you keep yourself consistent with those is going to be really important, or you're going to start rushing some 200s on that. But that's going to be our first hybrid. We're going to move back into some rice and some more straightforward stuff. We got our chord stream pick here, For No Reason by PWHK. 166 BPM and OD 8.5. As you'd probably expect from the chord stream pick, you're going to want to have that high OD so that the players are focusing on their accuracy. But this one is a bit of an interesting pick. Unlike Primatrix from the previous round, this one doesn't start up for a while. You have a pretty long intro followed by a really short chord stream section and then another break. But the last minute or so of the map is extremely dense. Something
also about this intro, where I'm more of a right thumb player, so playing this on no mod, I would kind of notice that it's kind of heavy on the right hand for me personally. But yeah, when you mentioned basically the second half of this chart, it's just brackets over and over and over again. It just won't end. Some people might think it just won't end at all.
Yeah, and like I said, get this break. But as you said, once that second stream starts, it just feels like it's never going to end. And that's kind of how these chord stream picks end up feeling in general. 166 is not terribly fast either, so I feel like players are going to be pretty comfortable despite some of the density. But something else that I do notice when I was looking through this is that it kind of goes in, it ebbs and flows through density for this part at least, where it goes like low density and then comes back to high density with some of those brackety type patterns. But about halfway through this section, it just blasts you with everything and then gets really dense consistently and doesn't stop.
And yeah, that's what I mentioned. It just won't end at all. I think when I was test playing this, I was actually struggling getting to read these brackets. If you just manage to turn off your brain for some reason mid play, which I hope no one of the players are going to do, this could easily be your downfall.
It absolutely could. And just finishing it off with some repeated patterns from the beginning sections, but that is going to be our chord stream pick for no reason.
Now our next pick is going to be a long note pick, the long note release pick, Mitsukiyo's Jurokuji no Hitori Tabi, a chart by Jinjin. And as with most of the long note release picks, this might feel one of the easier, not so physical kinds of picks. But if there's anything in 7K release that you have to be super careful of, it's basically trying to be super complacent. Like, there's a lot of things that will be trapping you. For example, especially those long notes that are extended from like 1/8 to 1/4 from a base bar line.
Important to note as well that the number of points players are going to need to win their matches has increased by 1 going into quarterfinals, which also means 2 new maps have been added to the pool. One of them being a long note pick, and this is the new category for long notes that's being added, which is just kind of a release-ish based instead of just pure coordination like we were seeing from LN1 in the round of 16 pool. This map in general, very light, but super, super focused on those staggered releases and making sure that you have a vice grip on like where to actually release the notes, because it's so sporadic and volatile with just where the release points are. OD6 is going to help that be a little bit more lenient, but I think even with OD6, this is going to be extremely hard to get good accuracy on.
As we're seeing on the replay, Jinjin is kind of below 99%. We might be seeing those kinds of accuracies as well for some of the players in this round. So, and also just a note, there are only 1,000 notes in this chart, so any misses are going to be tanking your score.
They certainly will. That map is also very short in general, so not one you're going to want to make mistakes on. Definitely a high risk, high reward type of map for players who are good at those long note patterns. But we're moving right back into some more rice, and as I said, 2 extra picks in the pool. Here's the second extra pick that's being added to the pool, another rice pick, and this one's going to introduce the faster side of chord streams that we weren't able to see in the round of 16 pool. 189 BPM, Aratanaru Ketsui by level 51, OD8, so not quite as strict on the accuracy side as we saw from this slower chord stream pick before, but still going to be pretty difficult.
Also, just a note, since this is a faster chord stream pick, you might be seeing a bit more comfortable patterning compared to the other chord stream pick. This is leaning more towards the starey kind of chord streams, unlike the other one, which is the more brackety type.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can already kind of see that even in this dense section, there's kind of like a flow to the patterns that we weren't seeing quite as much in the denser chord stream pick from earlier. Though it's a fair share of relatively awkward patterns. You do see a little bit of that, I couldn't even think of the right word. But yeah, like mirrored from the spacebar. It's symmetric, yeah. Sorry, I completely misheard that. But regardless, you do get quite a few more breaks as well in this, where there's going to be sections of broken broken chord stream throughout, and that'll help keep players from tiring themselves out quite as much as you might expect from the more dense stamina-based chord stream pick.
Also, this break section just ends with a chord jack transition, going into more of these chord streamy patterns here. The density kind of still maintains the same level as what we have before, but this is more of like the broken stair kind of patterns, which is super mind blocking for a lot of players who are not really super comfortable to these kinds of charts.
Absolutely. But that's going to finish off our third rice pick, our fifth pick overall in the pool.
Now our next pick is J2's Nocturne, which is the LN coordination pick of this pool. So LN coordination, a lot of people are super afraid of those kinds of charts. And unlike round of 16's Hanano Yakusoku, this one is way more in your face with the LN coordinations. Like with the one from round of 16, you could still kind of survive with the accuracy portion over there. This one is just, I don't think there's even a part of this chart where you let go of the keyboard at all.
I think you might be right about that. It's pretty consistent with everything. The long notes just kind of stick around. On top of the fact that it is quite a bit faster than the map from round of 16 that involved the coordination. So you're going to have to be able to read those releases and the heads of the LNs a lot more quickly and a lot more deliberately. On top of the fact that there are like quite a bit of rice notes throughout that, and in my opinion, as someone who's like not great at 7 key, can really mess with your reading a lot and stunt your coordination if you're not ready for them.
Something I even tend to do whenever there are chords in between these LN coordination patterns, I sometimes tend to hit them as shields, which is not that ideal, especially that the rice appears like around 1/2 beats. And also, they're just there to start tripping you up. Like a lot of players maybe end up releasing a long note just because there is a rice chart, some rice note somewhere in that pattern.
Yeah, absolutely. Can definitely be very tricky to hold on to. And we're in this chorus, we've actually been seeing quite a bit of like, not necessarily coordination, so to speak, but releasey type patterns with like stagger releases that we weren't seeing quite as much in the intro or in the first half of the map. But like you said, it just keeps going and going and going, and you keep your fingers on the keyboard for pretty much the entire time. Still on it as we head into the very last couple of patterns here for the second long note pick in the pool. And that's going to do it for Nocturne. Also OD7, so the accuracy is not going to be quite as comfortable for you in compared to like the release pick, which was OD6. But that's going to do it. We'll move into the fourth rice pick of the pool, Reincarnation. Rice 4 is going to be our Jack pick. And this pushes us up to 240 BPM or about 120 BPM jacks. And this map is pretty interesting compared to Rain from the previous pool, because Rain had a pretty heavy focus on anchors, like long, drawn-out anchors. And this map just focuses on the density. I think there's only like 3 or 4 total anchors that extend past 2 notes long. So it's just about making sure that you have the jack capabilities on top of the density reading ability.
Yep, as you did mention, this chart is more really on how spread out the jacks are. Usually, like you're right. I think there's like less than 3 really in terms of anchors. Like you just have to be super careful of controlling your fingers, trying to not hit the columns you're not supposed to hit in these super spread out heavy chord jacks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, not to mention the increase in speed by about, I think, 10 BPM upgrade from round of 16. So making sure that you had that stamina to hold on to the jacks for the length of the map on top of the extra speed. And an OD 8.5, as you might expect from a jack pick, just make sure that the accuracy is on point as much as possible.
Also, you see there are some ladder-like chord jacks. You have to be super careful on those. It's super easy to get a miss or get a miss hit on a column right on those kinds of chord jacks.
Absolutely, and there is one of the anchors in the map on that space bar, so if you're too focused on the the spread out nature of it, making sure you're hitting the notes, you just got to kind of be ready for that anchor on the space bar. But given it's the only one, I don't think it's going to cause too many issues overall as we get into the final sections of this map.
Also, the ending part, you just really want to take it home at that point. Just try not to choke. Also, nice play here from our replay person. Only 1-200. Our next pick is the second hybrid of this showcase. We have Psyche's Remorse, another chart by Paradoxes. This is actually one of the shorter picks in this pool. Something like Colors from round of 16.
I was actually going to say that exact same thing, where I looked at this and I was like, this is just Colors Part 2. Because you have the same Flam long notes, you have it's a lower OD than we saw from Colors. OD5, so it's going to be really lenient on the accuracy. But then you get into this section with the stagger releases, and I'm like, this is just Colors. Except harder.
Yep, it did warrant the decrease in OD. This is one of those charts that was edited especially for this World Cup. Also, those releases, I have no idea how you could even act those without choking somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know how you even combo through most of that. It's so hard to read through, especially with so many of the reverse shield, or not reverse shields, regular shields on the end. They're so close. The long note ends are so close to some of those rise patterns that I feel like reading is going to be end up being a minor issue for some players. But it transitions into another section like this, which is potentially more on the coordination heavy side than the intro or that first section was, just based on the way that the LNs are structured. Like, some of them extend into the next set of chords, and that I think is going to cause some real issues, especially since the stagger releases stick around.
Also, it just transitioned to those bursty rise patterns as well. It just won't let up.
Yeah, it's awkward, but that'll finish off our potentially highest risk map in the pool, our Hybrid 2. We'll move into our third long note pick, and this is going to be Dive With You. It's going to be OD5, length of 2 minutes and 5 seconds, and a BPM of 180. And this is going to be our density pick, I believe.
Yep, this is our density pick, and according to the notes Jinjin provided me before the showcase, this is around a similar difficulty to last year's quarterfinals long note density, which was Lee Ju's 8-bit Voyager. Though I would say personally the patterns here are much more comfortable, less abrasive compared to 8-bit Voyager. 8-bit Voyager was actually a bit faster in terms of BPM for this. But the density here kind of replicates how Daisuke from round of 16 structures their releases on these super dense long note chord streams.
Yeah, you're seeing a lot of short long notes that are basically just trying to get you to read through them. The accuracy on those shouldn't be too difficult, especially with that OD5, but you can definitely see that ebbing and waning density that comes in sometimes with the more comfortable staircasey type patterns. And it's just about focusing on which long notes actually do extend. And past that point, I think it's going to be pretty comfortable for a lot of people.
Also, both chorus sections, you do notice those super staggered long note releases. If you try to look at them carefully, those are just plain stairs really, but you kind of have to be super careful. Again, with your release timings, those are super easy to trip up. It's super easy to get 200s on even on OD5. Also, some of these chord streams have some interlaced rise notes as well. If you're not super careful, those are super easy to miss.
Indeed they are, and we're getting into the final few patterns, just finishing off our density long note pick. Not too long, 2 minutes and 5 seconds. Just got to make sure you're focused for that time, so stamina shouldn't be an issue for most of these players. Just, classic density long notes.
Now up next is our mixed rise pick of this pool. We have Wakadori's Fuzzy Navel, another chart by Evening, the second Evening chart here. And oh my goodness, this is the first things first, this is the first uprate of the World Cup. And
we did.
What a way to start the uprate. upgrade brigade of this pool because this is wacky. This is wacky as
It definitely is pretty wacky. You said mixed rice. Last pool we had an evening map also as the mixed rice map for that pool in Busy Come Busy Go, and I think there's a pretty good comparison you can make between the two maps there. This one has a little bit heavier of a focus on the technical elements, but you know that that broken like chord stream with the flams at the end of it is still there, just like we saw in Busy Come Busy Go. And this one also gets a lot more difficult at the end, so it takes that from Busy Come Busy Go as well.
IMAX theory in action on the charting here. Also, something that I kind of want to highlight here is the break section, especially with how the left hand and the right hand are chart different layers in the music. Like, just pretty nifty.
Indeed. A little bit of a break section here with some not difficult patterns, but you have some mini jacks that you kind of have to focus on, but it starts the build up into that final quarter where that difficulty starts to really pick up here. And we get a more consistent chord stream section here with some split chords, and the flams stick around. So you're definitely going to have to focus a lot on this, especially with those mini jacks that start showing up in the chord stream patterns as well.
You just have to be super careful here because I would say a lot of the chokes in this chart will be happening in this section.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And that ending, that last pattern with the mini jacks can definitely throw you for a loop. That's going to be our fifth rice pick, our first of our mixed tech picks. And that's going to move us into our final hybrid. It's going to be Simurg, a map by Stan, OD7.2, 2 minutes and 26 seconds at a BPM of 186. And this one is a pretty interesting map because it looks pretty straightforward for a while, but I'd say this is like a middle point between what we saw from Rain Shower and the previous hybrid Remorse, where there are some very risky sections with some plans and some difficult long note patterns, but it is a lot more straightforward than we saw in Remorse.
Yep. A lot of this chart is basically getting your stair movements out of the way. There are basically a lot of comfortable patterns here, but there's some reverse shields there that are actually half a beat apart from the long note releases they're associated with, so maybe try to be careful on those.
Yeah, I guess this does have some similarities to Random from the previous round, where in certain sections of this, you have some pretty abrupt changes in rhythm. And we're seeing those increases in speed and then the 1/3 jacks there, which kind of mirrors that, but it's not for the entire chart like it was for Random. It's just specific sections that you have to be very worried about as far as, focusing on those changing rhythms goes.
Also, just to note, like, once the density increases in this chart, it won't let up at all. Here we go. Some of these somewhat, like, I'd say 8-bit-ish patterns there, some coordination stuff. This is, I'd say, one of the most rewarding charts to play in this pool, but the difficulty is something that you have to be careful, like strategizing in your matches. I'm not sure when would you like to get this pick in.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit of a weird one to go with. I would almost liken this to kind of like a technical pick with how much the rhythms change, and sometimes there's those, mini jack and shield patterns that can be tough. Definitely a little bit more technical than we saw from either of the other two hybrids, but still staying in its own lane as far as like being pretty straightforward with a lot of the patterns just outside of those specific, technical sections.
And that is the final hybrid pick of the pool. So up next is the other technical pick. The Flashbulbs Melan, a chart by Lenpai. And if you think the evening chart from earlier was whack, here's whack times 2.
Ignore the star rating. 4.64 is not correct. It is correct, but it's not correct. Like, that doesn't define how difficult this chart really is. And like, if I were to describe this, the map is really light overall, but I'd liken it to a very traditional technical pick with a lot of those flams and a lot of extended jack patterns and mini jacks all over the place. So definitely something on the difficult side to make sure that your coordination with rice patterns in general is strong, especially with the OD 7.5 being somewhat up there in terms of the strictness for good accuracy, especially with some of these patterns.
Those mini middle finger jacks, middle finger triple double jacks are super tricky to hit, especially with the transitioning to those flam. I'm not even sure how, like, you cannot read them as chords obviously since act, but like trying to hit them might be the more intuitive way. I'm actually super unsure on how one player would even tackle this.
Yeah, it is really interesting to think about how players are going to be going for these patterns, but trying to manipulate some of these technical patterns could be an interesting strategy to see from some players who maybe aren't physically capable of holding onto all of these technical patterns. And if that ends up being the case, then trying to hold onto the combo could be a very good strategy for trying to take a point on a map like this.
Also, the density all kind of increases in on this part of the chart, but the patterns, like those sweeps, like I forgot about the sweeps existing. Like those are easy act drops if you're going to try to manip them.
Absolutely, they are, and that'll finish off our rice pool with the second tech pick. And we only have one more regular pick left in the pool. That's going to be our final long note pick. Long note 4, Mage of Violet. This is going to be our mixed long note pick, closer to an in-between zone between releases and density that we saw in the earlier 3 long note picks. OD 5.5, so not too difficult on the accuracy side of things, but it is 2 minutes and 58 seconds, the longest of our long note picks that we've seen in this pool. So it's going to be a mixture of that coordination and the density, but also make sure that you have the consistency to hold on for that long.
Also, there are some releases here that are snapped at 1/9, something that I cannot believe I'm actually saying in the map pool showcase. Some 8-bit, 16-bit pattern here. I mean, it's kind of what you'd expect from a maple syrup chart of this caliber. Also, just to mention, this is the first VTuber pick of the entire 7K World Cup map pool, and we're only 2 rounds in.
We did it. We didn't do it. We didn't have a VTuber until the end of the end of quarterfinals map pool this time. But we did actually see some interesting patterns that kind of reminded me of the mixed long note pick from last year's quarterfinals pool, Love is War, I believe, where it has those sweep patterns that go from one side to the other while being pretty much full inverse, and those can be pretty difficult to hold the coordination on.
Yep, some charters tend to put one extended long note in between the inverse, which is something that a lot of players tend to choke on if they're not paying enough attention. And also, there are some reverting stairs that I really like how Maple charted them, and there's yet another one of those patterns which I'm pretty sure the one you're meaning.
Yes, that pattern does repeat itself multiple times in this as we get into this chorus, which has more of a density focus than what we were seeing in the earlier sections of this map. Not to mention that this is quite fast for what you might expect from a mixed density pick or a mixed LN pick at 183 BPM. So that speed is definitely going to help with the release timing of some of the patterns in this map, but you cannot discount the difficulty of the coordination throughout some of these patterns.
Definitely. And also, you did mention the higher BPM. Also, something that Maple did all in this chart is that generally the patterns here are way more comfortable. Like, they're not that abrasive really. It's just the release timings that you have to be super careful with. Even with low OD, it's still super easy to get 200s here.
It certainly is, and we get into this last chorus with a slight density increase from the other choruses we saw, and some extra coordination patterns as we approach the very ending of this chart. And that will do it.
Yep, the ending reverse shield stare. I wonder if there's some jokes that are going to happen there.
Hopefully not. I don't want to see people choke. But that is
Yeah.
going to finish off our regular 13 picks. We only have one map left in this pool, and it's going to be our tiebreaker.
So we have Camellias. We could get more. Okay, we could get more
Machine gun
size style. There you go. R.I.P. my English.
It's all right. It's all good. A little bit of a shorter tiebreaker than we saw from the previous round. It goes from 6 minutes to 5 minutes here. A slightly changing BPM throughout, though. Most of the map is the same 160 BPM. 7.39 stars. OD7, a little bit easier on the accuracy than I might have expected for a tiebreaker for this round. But regardless, mapped by Remmering. I'm sure many people know this song for the high star rating ranked chart in 4-key at least. But this is going to be our 7-key version for our tiebreaker. And this has a whole lot of variation in patterning. Starts off with that transition and an increasing BPM. But we're going to be getting into some chord streams like we're seeing right now. We have a really interesting technical section in the middle, and then a really technical long note section as well. And that kind of just goes back and forth throughout the entire map.
This chart basically has everything you'd expect from a tiebreaker. Lots of challenging patterns, though. Something that we kind of have to take note of is that there's like a lot of chord jacks and mini jacks here due to the nature of the music, really. But the varying styles of how they're implemented in the chart is something that everybody should pay attention to.
Yeah, and you got a little bit of a hybrid chord stream section there, but it transitions out of that pretty fast, and I believe we're going to be coming up to a pretty light technical section, similar to what we were seeing in Milan earlier in the pool, where it's really light, but the patterns themselves are very difficult to hold on to consistently.
And here we go. This is kind of reminiscent of that mini jack heavy tech pick in the round of 16, kind of, but obviously way denser. Some more of these sweeping stairs, some of those mini trills as well. Have to be super careful on those.
Indeed, you do, and those are at 160 BPM, so it's not the easiest to hold on to the speed of those mini jacks. And we're getting into a very technical long note section here. All of a sudden hits you with that density, and that can be a pretty difficult transition to make, especially when you're trying to focus on getting accuracy on the technical section. And yet another shift in momentum as we get into some slower chord jacks.
So here's another break section here, but I don't even know if you could even call this into a break section, mostly because these patterns are not really the ones you'd want in a break section.
Yeah, I got those kind of like brackety-ish type of patterns. Though they are slow, they are very light in this situation, so I'm sure many players will be happy to not have to hold their stamina too much there, and we get a little bit of a rehashing of the intro long note sections that we saw.
Some one-hand inverse action with just a simple triple chord. Not really that bad. But then we are about to enter the climax of this chart where the density, like everything is just going to be thrown at you. Even the sync will be thrown at you.
Indeed they are. Wouldn't expect anything else to come out of a tiebreaker. Transitioning to some really fast bursts here. Another one of those long note sweeps. And some shifting BPMs as well. That is really rude.
Yup, an inverted stair on a BPM that goes slow. Oh man, that's evil.
1/4 of the map left. We have another transition, gets those streams underway, and I believe we're going to see a pretty heavy chord jack-ish type, yeah, it transitions between those bursts and the chord jacks. Similar to what we were seeing actually at the beginning, just a little bit on the denser side comparatively. We don't have too much left of this map to go. We're going to finish it off with another long note section with some pretty technical bursts here and some high density, some high octane to finish off the map. Got to make sure that your LNs are okay when you get to that point. The map itself overall is a little bit more rice focused than long note. But you know, you get those couple of sections with the very high intensity long notes that that will ruin you if you're not like well rounded enough to handle the long notes.
Also, those ending rice patterns like the sweeping stairs going into core jacks. Oh my goodness, that is evil.
This whole map was kind of evil, but that will finish off our quarterfinals map pool for the Mania 7 Key World Cup 2023. Yeah, what a weekend we've had, and I'm really excited to see all 16 teams return next week. 8 of them in the losers bracket, 8 of them maintaining their life in the winners bracket, and they will be playing against each other with this map pool. It's going to be an exciting weekend.
Definitely, and I wish the players all the best going into the coming weekend, because the journey is just going to get harder from this point on.
That it indeed will. One more thing that I want to do before we sign off for the weekend. Of course, I'm a master of shilling. I've got to get it out there. We have an open collective to for anyone to donate to if they would like to support the tournament and support the prize pool and players who are in the tournament. Make sure that if you want to support the tournament that you donate there at the open collective. But I don't think there's really anything else I need to say. Anything you want to say before we sign off?
Yep, I think that's pretty much it for me, aside from good luck to everyone in the roster.
Absolutely, good luck, and make sure to return next weekend for an action-packed weekend of quarterfinals action. We'll see you guys then.